Hello, hello. Anna Allen, are you there, honey girl? Hello. Good to see you, loves. Well, welcome. This is now week 7, and we are experiencing rising of the total female package. I'm Novelina Nichelle, and I am one of your hosts for this week, and looking forward to sharing with you this powerful mirror around your reflection in the now. Just to do a quick recap of last week, we had the opportunity to dive into our partnerships with our ego. And instead of thinking about our ego as edging God out, we started to look at our ego about experiencing God outwardly and how our ego is really trying to keep us safe and comfortable. So how can we partner with our ego in a way that actually supports the manifestation and the growth spurts that we all choose to experience, our higher self chooses to allow us to grow through so that we can get to the next place, the next evolution of our authentic self. So I welcome you all for joining, and really exciting to dive in. Hopefully you've been reading this along the way, and we are now on mirror 7. So we've been on a journey for the last 7 weeks, and we've gone through what it's like to actually be in your own authentic self-reflection and, creating those moments every day around self-care, self-love, journaling, and getting in tune with who you are, and really making sure that you get to a place in your life where you feel that you can thrive and in true alignment with your voice, and understanding what's your intuition versus the ego wanting to keep you safe. So we are now on this next journey. I want to welcome Valerie. She's the other co-host who just joined. She's waving from all the way from Las Vegas today, doing her thing. And this is actually one of the most sweet and most simplest mirrors, I would say, because it really deals with such a very simple topic. Well, my journey is experiencing that this is a simple topic once you practice this over time. But for many, it's actually kind of what sometimes keeps us a little bit in the past and in the future if you're not really totally understanding how to tap into just focusing on this moment in the now. And so this one's all around, who and what are you creating for yourself in this moment right now? Who is your truest reflection you can possibly be? And how do we keep you? And when I say we, I mean us all together, sisterhood. How do we support you in conversations and way of being and acting and the magic of creation, of being present to this moment? Because this moment's where your true freedom is. And it's this moment where you can actually experience the gift of presence. And then you're in that place of non-resistance, the most presence you can be. Feeling that alignment can really support you in navigating and creating other things. And there's some other amazing women on the call today that I'm going to be asking for their insight, because we're all navigating this world as a woman. We chose to be here as a woman. And so I want to hear perspectives on this power of being in your reflection in the now. So we're going to kick this off, mirror 7. And the only real time we can measure is the reality of a time called now. So what does that really mean, right? When we think about reality and we think about what's happening, I remember hearing over and over again from different mentors and guides and different educational books and documentaries and things, this power of being in the now, this power of being in presence moments. And I remember, I think it was The New Earth was my first real culmination of reading Eckhart Tolle's book, The New Earth. He was on a Oprah Winfrey Super Soul series, and he started talking about how when we're really caught up in this thinking process and we're in our head and not so much dropped into our heart, how there's a couple places that we tend to put ourselves, which is nowhere near the now. And a lot of times others and ourselves tend to either have regret or guilt or feel certain ways about the past. And those are things that are consuming you and others in your thought vibrations, and or you're worried, concerned, or excited for the future, and those thought vibrations are keeping you somewhere else that's actually not in this moment. And so how do you take the steps each day to work with your most aligned voice on how to stay present? And there's many different practices. The idea was to keep this simple so that folks could read this, women can read this from all different places around the world and walks of life, and understand just that little bit of the present moment and what it really actually meant to be in the now. So being in the now meant not being in a place where your mind is consumed with thoughts about the past or consumed with thoughts about the future, but actually being here. So like in this moment, I'm with you. I'm with all of the beautiful women on this call, and this is my focus, and I'm super present to it. I'm not also on my phone. I'm not also, writing something. I'm not even looking over here to things happening outside my window right now. I am actually really super focused on this conversation. And that's the presence that we each have the ability to do. I also remember, or just be in. I remember a time when I was on a retreat at a friend's house, and he brought present moments to eating. And he was sharing this concept around how we actually eat our food. And do you just rush through your food because you're so hungry, or do you actually sit and take time? And I remember, I think I brought this up a little bit ago around the conscious health mirror a few weeks ago, but I remember having this huge awakening around how I actually eat food. Because normally I'll, munch every couple hours on some food and just kind of do it as like part of my routine to keep my metabolism up. And when he shared an exercise with the group of people that were meeting at his workshop, and just gave us the focus and the opportunity and the time to sit and just focus on the sensation of the food, the chewing of the food, how many bites to take. I remember for the first time in my life that I wasn't aware of how much flavor I was missing out on not being present with the food. Even being grateful for the food that I was eating in that moment as I was chewing it, opened up this whole other sensation of the food I was eating. And I realized when I actually took the time to be present with my food, and I didn't allow myself to be distracted by other things happening around me or things that I was thinking I needed to do after. And I was just there in these small moments, like 5 minutes or so of this exercise. I actually didn't even need to eat as much of the food that I normally thought I would consume, because I was feeling very satiated from just being present with the food I was eating. So this mirror is around a completely open opportunity for you to kind of get in sync with the present moment. And sometimes we're running around so much and we're doing that it's really easy to get out of the present moment. And some of the things that align us to the present moment are being in nature. And these are some like the quick remedies, allowing yourself to have some space and listen to music, making an agreement with yourself that when you're in a conversation with another human being in your space, that all you're focused on is really empathetically listening to them, so that you can fully understand not what we want to tend to react to in commentary back, but really fully understand where the other person is coming from, and noticing how that feels inside of you. So I think this might be a good time, Val or Anna, if you want to chime in a little bit about your experience of when you're actually living in the now and what that's done with you as really raising your vibration and your own awareness around being in this sensation of being the total female package, like really owning that authenticity and that voice of who you are. Because I'd love for others on the call to hear some of your wisdom. If you're in a place where you feel you can share, I'll open up the dialogue now. And there you go. Go for it, Val.
It's a little loud where I'm at, so can you hear me okay?
We can hear you. It is a little loud, but it's okay.
Okay. This is a beautiful chapter that really, like, it's like divine timing, all of this, in terms of going through the TFP and having this book club, because, over the last week, I've been just on the go, and being able to, let me find a quiet space also, being able to be in the present moment, being able to stop and breathe and to be with the people that I am having a conversation with, it's really important. And, we're so distracted by our phones. We're so distracted by our to-do list and living in our heads, opposed to in the present moment of what is happening right then and there, that we may miss out on the amplified taste of a delicious meal, the smile from a joke that you're sharing or a story you're sharing. There's just certain attributes to your day that you miss if you're not in the present moment, living in the past, or pretty much just not being there. And along with that, along with being in the present moment, I also think of kind of, in a business scenario or in a relationship standpoint, if you're not with that person and you're just thinking about what they did to you, or what they did, a year ago, 3 years ago, and you're bringing that into your present moment, how is that affecting your future? Because you're now, you're not creating from a clean slate. You're not being in that moment that you are in, truly in that moment with them. You're off somewhere else. So, I love these little reminders of the TFP and our group that we're getting together every week, because it's divine in the sense of, for me, I'm definitely on the go right now. And this little reminder to just be present, to enjoy that cookie, enjoy that chocolate chip cookie, enjoy the hints of cinnamon, or, little hints of vanilla that they may put in there that you can catch wind of, because you're truly being present with what is there with you in that very moment.
Absolutely. Thank you for sharing. Big shout out to my niece. I just realized she's the one that's on the phone right now with us.
And I gotta shout out my friend Samantha Padilla, who's joining us from LA. So really happy she can join us.
Yeah. And we have now, I believe, Miss Anna Nashalipa. Are you able to jump on and share a little bit of your insight around this mirror?
Yeah, thank you, Lev. I would love to. And what came up initially, which I always love the analogy that you share about the food. Guess who taught him that one? And what immediately came up was this whole concept of how, as women, we are programmed and expected to be these powerful multitaskers, right? And we spin and manage and balance, 20 different plates at a time, and, children and job and looking hot in the house and everything else, and relationships, right? And how important it is for us to really to take that awareness time of even just a single breath, even just, okay, wait, focus. Now I'm going to handle this. Now I'm going to handle that. Now I'm going to finish this task. And I notice, especially being in relationship with Andrew, how we were talking the other day, and I asked him a question and I just left it there. I was like, okay, I know how a compartmentalized thinker men are in general, and especially him. When he is in the zone, it is like, that's it. And so 4 minutes go by and he's like, did you say something? Was that? And I was like, let me repeat the question. And then he goes, please don't be. He thought, I may be upset or reactive, or that I thought he was ignoring me or something. And I said, sweetheart, I absolutely know where you're at. You were so focused, so present, and so just into that specific task that you were completing and, you know, in the middle of doing, that it wasn't your intention to ignore me in any way, but to just, you know, have that in a specific space to then complete it. And then he's able to move on to something else. Right. And so there's something that it was a beautiful communication, and then a reminder to myself as, you know, I got something cooking on the stove and I'm working over here and I got a conference call, you know, going, oh yeah, slow down, handle this, get that present moment focus, and then move on to really, really completing something. Because this is where I noticed people like my mother would burn the food, upset other people, stress herself out, and get into this place where she completely loses her focus of, you know, what her original intention was. And then absolutely none of the things that she intended to complete in this, you know, multi-plate balancing, spinning, juggling act were ever completed, or they were done in, you know, this half-assed sort of way, or burnt, or whatever the case was. So it's such an important mirror.
Yes, absolutely. I'd put myself on mute just so we could hear you fully. And I agree with all that. Like, you know, contrast, Abraham and Esther Hicks, like, really taught me a lot around, you know, the experiencing contrast and what that can actually do for you to actually even just be more present. And just what you were just sharing on around, you know, tend to notice the things that are happening when you're not in that present moment, when you're not living in the now. And it's okay to plan for the future. It's okay to have your life map and speak into things that you're creating. But in that speaking in the moment, how are you feeling? Like, what is that tone in the now that you're putting into the things you're creating, so that it could have that vibration as it carries it towards you over time, right? So the biggest thing in this mirror, and I mean, it goes over just different, really quick little nuggets around recognizing the opportunities that the now presents as gifts of your growth for your true self. What is happening in this moment? You know, speaking of relationship earlier, and it's kind of your like love, fun little share around Andrew was like flipped, where it was like the playful twin flame of mine was in this, like, you know, de-stress, fun mode, doing his thing. And I'm like focused, and I got 10 things on my mind, and I walk into a room and I just want one answer. And then I'm getting pulled into other stuff that I wasn't ready for. And I was like, I wasn't actually in a place to be empathetic in that moment. And so my disconnect from that moment, I felt, okay, might have wounded. So, but like all of that is like running in the system as I'm trying to like focus on these 10 things that need to get done by a certain time. And then when you look back at that and you're just in the present moment, like, how are you, instead of worrying about that or creating more separation around those moments, like being totally comfortable with understanding like who you are right now in this moment, how you show up, your integrity, your feeling, your love with yourself, and really honoring your partner and yourself in a way that actually can create that moment to be a learning lesson and something that you can grow from. And so that's also the part of the now, like this moment is right now, and the next moment is a now moment. And that's why this concept of time for me, as I grow, you know, I don't really know what my age is, but as I grow as a human, and we human like to chronologize things for like years, I tend to like just think time is screwy. You know, I'm just sitting here sometimes going, I don't really know. Like I could think about something so true for me. Like for those of you who know very dear about Kristen, my niece who transitioned to the most amazing place possible, you know, and I can hear her, I can see her like in things that, and even though it's been 2 years, like it feels like it was just yesterday. Or I have a moment that just happened and it could feel like, oh, that just happened 3 years ago. So the concept of time to me is kind of scattered. So it's like if every moment really is just a now moment and there really is no concept of time, then how are you fully giving into this moment right now? And what are some of the ways for us as sisters to help each other fully give to this moment? That's why I speak about nature, and I speak about things that are aligning your chakras and your own voice and your intuition with certain practices that keep you in the space of self-love and self-care, because that is just a way I think that keeps you super present when you could be in that energy as much as possible. So if you ladies want to add anything to that, then I'd love for you to unmute yourself.
Well, just I'll add real quick on the concept of time itself from a universal heavenly perspective, as I've been guided by my guides and angels in understanding what time is in the universe and how we can relate that to ourselves. So, the whole as above, so below, as the universe, so the soul. So in really aligning ourselves to understanding that time really isn't, it's a made up concept in our dimension, but what it really represents is the events in our life, the amplitude or the frequency that or the intensity, right? Like if there was a wave, there'd be an intensity of a wave and that goes really high or really low. And then the frequency in which those events happen at the different intensities, right? So that's how we actually see a wave of time in the universe. For example, the time in the universe is speeding up right now. We've had the solar eclipse and the lunar eclipse, and then all of these other happenings around the sun, and we had a triple planet occultation and all these other things that are speeding up time or events, frequencies, and intensities of those events happening. So that's how our life also works, is how many events and how intense are they, and how frequent are you creating those in your life to speed up or slow down that essence of time.
Yeah, love it. Yeah, so I
Guess who that was?
You. I saw in the background.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that share, and I think that it's super also relevant. And I love when women are going to watch and play this back later, because there is a lot going on right now in our universe and what's being created. And you get. I know you're in Bali and most of us are here on the West Coast of California, and we're not quite yet experiencing anything as drastic as what it might feel like to be for the people in India, or the people in parts of Northern Europe, or the people on the East Coast, in Florida and those areas and stuff. And so, how do you stay present in those moments when you're in that fury of emotional interruption, environmental interruption? How do you stay present to trusting? How do you stay present to having faith that this is all meant to be, and being in alignment? And so in those moments, what I would share, and I'd love to get your thoughts, Val and Anna as well. And if you want to speak to Miss Padilla, we would love to have your voice, but no pressure or anything. But for those moments, it's like, the one thing that I can say is I'm not experiencing those moments, but if I was experiencing a moment like that, like I had some bit of a little traumatic experience around my niece's passing, like being in each moment and taking it moment by moment by moment, and trusting the intuitive voice that gets you to the next place, and moving through that when you feel like there's things that are being created in your vibration that are getting you out of sync with the present moment. How do you get back to listening to what that ultimate truth voice is, your higher self? How are you getting back to listening to the next move? Like if I'm in Florida, like I've been checking in on some of my really close friends and family from Puerto Rico and Florida, and just making sure they're all navigating around and they're doing what they need to do based on their intuitive nudges. Like one's flying up to, parts of Georgia, one's, doing stuff in their cellar, in their basement to get ready for certain things. Like they're all listening to these nudges. And so they're being super present with what's happening. And a hurricane and a rainstorm and all these things get you freaking present with the moment. So it's like, that's really like, it kind of like opens up that opportunity for presence when these things happen, right? Because when we're not in those type of moments, you could just allow your day to run by default, and you're like running through your day, like routine, like, oh, 9 to 5, I'm going to go to work and I'm going to be in my cubicle, or I'm going to go and do my 10 coaching calls, and then I'm going to go do this. And so sometimes these natural occurrences, like what's happening is bringing people to the present moment, and it's getting them to refocus on what is really, really important. And I know Anna gets this from such a deep spiritual level. It's bringing that awareness to people, like being in the now is being aware of like what's right in front of you and what you have the opportunity to create, opportunity you have to live in that moment, what you decide for yourself, what you crave to experience. You can add everything to it in that moment. Anyone want to share?
I do.
Go, Val, go.
Oh no, I love Anna's shares. One thing in terms that I've even been doing on this call, just to get me present with kind of all the chaos and last minute changes that have been going on, is breathing. Just taking a breath in, taking a breath out, but feeling it, like feeling the expansion of my lungs, feeling it go into my body. And literally, I was working an event this week, and just mass chaos going on. Good chaos, I should say. Very productive chaos. But, I would go to the restroom and give myself an extra few minutes and literally just sit there on the toilet with myself and just breathe in and breathe out and get present to where I was at, what my higher self is there, what I stand for. And, really just drop into my body, and so that I could be present with the next person that I talk to, or the next business owner, the different conversations I have to be so present with them to be able to really hear what it is their challenges are, being able to hear that with them and not look at all the other extra things floating around or what needs to be done and the checklist, because it is, an event. It was like, okay, be present, deep breath in, deep breath out. And I do 5 deep breaths, and then I'm like, okay, ready to go. So that's a little trick that I do with myself in moments to get me present.
Awesome.
Your turn.
Beautiful.
Your turn, Anna. Passing the baton.
So one of the things that I teach my students and clients in this present moment focus concept and understanding and mirror is that distractions will diffuse your discernment. And discernment of being able to get that clear intuitive impulse. Now, Novelina mentioned, these natural disasters that are happening in different parts of the world. They force you to be focused. They force you to have that single-minded, single-eye, awareness, and that you have to take deep breaths and go, okay, what's most important? How do I protect my family? How do I protect my home? And nothing else matters. Not the news, not any kind of fear tactics, your job, whatever else. You are focused on your life and protecting that which you know of it, right? And so that's when your intuition is the strongest. That's when your discernment is spot on. That's when you are always right, is when these other voices and distractions of, what I call OPE, other people's energy, other people's environment, those influences that are pulling you from your truth and from your ability to be present and to have the discernment to make decisions in that moment, or for things that are important, moving on, so that you have that intuitive knowing. And of course, breathing and breath work is part of that. Unmute, Novi.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. So you both hit it right on, spot on with the breath work and being present. I remember there's multiple times throughout the week, sometimes because I work with a lot of masculine energy, that I'm putting myself in bathroom stalls and going, I'm going to take 10 minutes away from this energy right now to realign. And what Anna said is so good around the concept of what the now allows you to be, especially in some of these more what it seems like primitive type priority type moments in life, it allows you to play with your intuition and it allows you to play with your discernment. And I love those two words together, because having intuitive discernment gives you an opportunity to really put yourself in the now. And so what was beautiful about what you shared, Anna, is that that is exactly around awakening this concept of you rising as the total female package that's already living inside of you. Because the woman who is owning her worth and loving herself as already a complete package, a total package. No one says what you should be doing or what you should look like or what you should wear or how much you should weigh. You are all you and totally comfortable in your skin being you. And a part of that is being you in the present moment. And so the more you can find ways that allow yourself to be in the presence of yourself, and you're in a place where you're honoring yourself, respecting yourself, you're kind to yourself, you're loving yourself, you're forgiving yourself, you're having compassion for yourself, you're being in flow with harmony, you're allowing things to come to you in the moment that are truly meant to be experienced as your most ultimate desires. Like, these are all the gifts that you can give yourself with intuitive discernment. And it's around being completely and wholly intoxicated with who you are and understanding yourself. And I don't say the only way, but a lot of times your most purest essence can come forth when you're in that present moment, can come forth in a way where you can fully encompass like that intuitive hit that you're getting that's residing inside of you in the moment. And when you pay attention to those intuitive hits, when you ask for signs and they show up, you are being present, you are in the moment, you're living your life, and you're in flow with the natural laws of the universe and in flow with the natural way that your body responds and is made up and connected, because we're all a body of the universe. We're all this energetic connections that is thriving every day together and connecting in such like a way where maybe we don't see through our five senses. But that is what is always happening in each moment. And I feel like I'm repeating myself, and I do that on purpose because, and this is actually like a really, intuitive, evolved group of women on the phone. So it's, I know that you all probably really, truly understand this, but for someone who's listening to this, if this is a brand new concept, I just want to make it as simple as possible for you. The way that I understood this completely was focusing on my thoughts, and were my thoughts here in the present moment, what I was saying from my mouth, what I was experiencing, my body, feeling, sensation in the moment, what I was eating, or was my mind on the future, concerned, or is my mind on the past? And when I realized that the simplest way for me to focus on being in the now was to quiet the noise, then I got to see how much more my relationship started to flourish. I got to see how much more the things that I was really calling into my experience showed up, like what seemed like timeless things showed up fast because I was here. There was no resistance in the field because there weren't thoughts on the future and there weren't thoughts on the past. And I'm not saying that to say that you don't plan for the future, because there's things that you speak into, but it's where are you living right now and how are you giving your presence to it? So this is week 7, the power of your self-reflection in the now, and some of the activities at the end of this mirror to get you into flow of being in the now is finding music or sounds that you wake up to that inspire you. I noticed that when my husband and I put on natural sound type of audios when we wake up to in the morning, it's this like beautiful, like present wake up moment to the day. It's not an alarm clock that's abrupt and kind of gets you out of where you are. It's like this more natural guidance into being, okay, now I'm awake and I'm out of this dream world and spirit world I've been playing with all night. Now I'm here back again on planet Earth, and okay, I'm in flow with this now moment, and it just eases in your system. So how many ways can you do that throughout your day that keep you super present? And we talked about this in the mirror around gratitude. And I also think it's very relevant to this mirror around the now is having something that you anchor, something that symbolizes being in the now. Like I had this faith rock for the longest time that I would take with me everywhere. And so for me, that was my gratitude rock, but it also brought me presence. If there was ever anything that I was, getting caught up with, and I'd go into my pocket or I'd feel this thing in my pocket, it was a constant reminder for me to touch it and be with the feeling of it and look at the word faith on this rock. And then I start to think about faith and what faith meant to me in the moment, and then start to trust the moment of anything that was happening. And so little things like that, I believe, really can get you there. There's it's a book and a movie, but if you're a moviegoer like I am and just kind of want to get through a 2-hour experience visually, I think one amazing movie that exemplifies this being in the present moment is called Peaceful Warrior. And it has ingrained messages in it that really get the main character in the film, who's the peaceful warrior, to be present. And it shows the power of what presence does for him in his life and his world as it relates to everything around him. And I think it's a good reminder of you putting yourself in that hero's journey of being a peaceful warrior in your life. And so I recommend everybody to watch that. And I remember one thing I used to do as another practice, and this is something that Val talked about too, is I used to focus myself. I used to have this big hill when I lived in Hillcrest, downtown San Diego area. I'd run up and down every day. And I remember focusing. I would make myself, until it just naturally happened, focus on every step I was running up and down the hill and how my muscles were feeling. And because I wanted to not be in my head in the morning. And I realized that when I focused on what my muscles were feeling, what my calves were feeling, what my feet were feeling, and I was doing that up and down the hill, it was making me so present that it then just became natural for me to be more present in each moment. So those are some simple practices that you can take on. And I'd love for Anna, Val, or anyone else to share. We've got 4 minutes before our time is up. If you want to share any practices that you do to be present.
Well, hi ladies, in the last few minutes. One of the things I am starting to implement now is no phones at the dinner table. So when I am with my partner, when I'm with Aiden, this is a really big thing that he and I are working on. And he actually dropped his phone in the pool, and it has a flip phone. So he challenged himself for no internet to go basic. And so, of course there comes a challenge for me because I'm distracted. I have things, and, it is an ongoing growth experiment between the two of us. and it's to be in the present moment. So between he and I, we have a pact that when we're with each other for dinner, that is our time to connect with one another. That is when we're eating a meal together, there's no phones allowed around the dinner table or around us, so that we can actually engage with one another and be present with what is going on, and, really just with each other. And, that is time that I appreciate and value from him, because we love to eat. And, it is a time for he and I to just really connect and bond before we go about our paths and go about our day. So that is one of the ways, is putting my phone away at a meal. And then the other is breath work. And I shared that earlier. And, breath work for me really helps in kind of all scenarios, whether in the morning, I'm really practicing my breath work a lot more, but in high stressful moments, or there's just a lot of moving pieces and things going around, I can drop in and center myself really quickly with just some breath work, and really, kind of saying some affirmations to myself. And we've shared that. I've shared some of those in the previous calls of, just saying, I love myself. I love myself. And, that literally gives me tingles up in my body, to where I kind of feel like, Popeye, just had a little spinach can and kind of leveled up a little bit, or, a little pep in her step. And so the breath work, really acknowledging myself. I love myself. And then are some of the ways that I drop in and get present.
Awesome. Anna Love, do you have anything to contribute? I'm sure you do. but you don't have to.
Yes, but it would take more than a minute, but because, and the breath work obviously is super powerful, but just real quick, we'll try to squeeze it in because everyone has different distractions in their life. Before getting into being able to do breath work, having awareness of what those things in your life are. So right now is a perfect time to really go through that and assess yourself, your habits, you know, the different things that you find that you catch yourself and that you think to yourself, oh, why did I do that? Oh, I did that again. Oh, you know, these programs, these things that we need to become aware of in order to really drop that or let it fall, which is perfect timing for the fall or the autumn equinox right now, because this is a time for us to let go and release and allow these old patterns that are really systemically programmed from our society point of view to start dropping and releasing some of those distractionary type habits, which is the phone is the number one distraction to everyone in this modern day, which causes a dopamine addiction. So that's part of the first step is an awareness, and then the second is going into that action, which is therefore breath work.
Beautiful. Join us next week for Mirror 8 and reflecting your giving heart. Thank you all for being a part of here. You're amazing.